What if one man, driven by an ambition so vast it bordered on the divine, sought to gather and comprehend every single story, every profound idea, every minute observation, every piece of accumulated wisdom from an entire civilization? Not just to collect them, mind you, but to own them. To hold the very intellectual and spiritual essence of a people in his hands, to define its narrative, to dictate its past, its present, and by extension, its enduring future. Imagine the staggering hubris required for such a vision. Imagine the sheer, unbridled power. And then, try to imagine the monumental, almost unimaginable undertaking that would be necessary to even begin to achieve such an all-encompassing, all-controlling aspiration. This isn't some fanciful, hypothetical ripped from the pages of a dystopian novel, nor is it a mere philosophical thought experiment on the limits of human endeavor. This was a profoundly real project, born in the very heart of imperial China during the tumultuous yet magnificent reign of an emperor whose reach stretched across an empire as immense and sprawling as his own formidable ego. This was an endeavor of such staggering physical and intellectual scale that even today, centuries later, it continues to defy easy comprehension, demanding our awe and perhaps our quiet apprehension. Picture this with me, not a quaint collection of delicate scrolls tucked away in a dusty archive, not a respectable academic library confined to a single university, but a literal leviathan constructed from countless sheets of paper and rivers of ink, a monument to human inscription so vast it could dwarf entire modern institutions, perhaps even a dedicated palace of scholarship built solely to house its contents. We are speaking here of 36,000 individual volumes. 36,000. Let that number truly sink in. Each one meticulously copied, painstaking page by human hand. The sheer weight of them, the collective mass of their accumulated knowledge, could fill an entire wing of a colossal museum, or perhaps even a series of specially constructed halls designed for nothing else. And within those volumes, a breathtaking 2.3 million pages. Imagine the tactile sensation of turning each one, feeling the aged paper beneath your fingertips, seeing the delicate, precise brushstrokes of a bygone era. 2.3 million distinct surfaces, each bearing characters etched with ink, carrying not just words, but profound thoughts, lyrical poems, intricate histories, complex philosophies, and groundbreaking sciences across untold centuries. And who, you might ask, performed this monumental feat of transcription? Not a single isolated scholar toiling away in solitary genius, but an entire army of scribes, 3,800 dedicated individuals, their lives utterly consumed by the relentless demands of the task, their hands cramping from the endless copying, their eyes strained by the flickering candlelight that illuminated their arduous work. Day after day, year after year, for decades, they transcribed the vast intellectual heritage of a civilization, making not just copies, but beautiful, precise reproductions, filling folio after folio, volume after volume. They were the anonymous, often forgotten, architects of this paper empire, the silent conduits through which countless voices from the past would either be heard, celebrated, or chillingly, forever silenced. This unparalleled collection, this veritable ocean of wisdom, was known by a name that resonates with its immense grandeur and its all-encompassing scope, the Siku Quanshu. In English, we translate it as the complete library of the four treasuries, and that name itself, in its elegant simplicity, tells an even deeper story. Four treasuries refers to the four principal divisions of traditional Chinese learning, each a bedrock of the civilization's intellectual identity. There were the revered classics, the foundational texts that shaped thought and morality; history, the meticulous records of events, dynasties, and biographies; philosophy, the profound explorations of ethics, metaphysics, and governance; and finally, belles letters, the vibrant, expressive realm of poetry, essays, and imaginative literature. It was quite literally designed to be everything. Every significant work deemed worthy, every sliver of knowledge, every influential voice from antiquity and from the contemporary age, all painstakingly brought together under one grand roof, bound by a singular, unyielding imperial will. It represented the ultimate ambition to organize, classify, preserve, and thereby control the entire known universe of Chinese scholarship. But here, as with so many grand narratives of power, ambition, and legacy, lies a profound and unsettling truth, a deep shadow that falls across the gleaming, pristine pages of this otherwise magnificent library. For the Siku Quanshu was never, in its deepest essence, merely a benevolent project of simple preservation. It was not born purely from some selfless, enlightened desire to safeguard knowledge for knowledge's sake, for future generations, though it certainly did achieve that to a considerable degree, almost as a side effect. No, beneath its carefully cultivated veneer of enlightened patronage, nestled deep within its meticulously compiled categories and its elegant volumes, resided a far darker, more insidious and calculating purpose. This wasn't just about preserving stories, it was about curating them with an iron fist. It wasn't just about collecting ideas, it was fundamentally about controlling them, shaping them, and, where necessary, erasing them. The emperor who commissioned this colossal undertaking, the legendary Qianlong, was not merely a benevolent patron of the arts and sciences, a figurehead of culture. He was an absolute ruler, and like every absolute ruler throughout history, he possessed a chillingly keen understanding that control over information, over the very fabric of history itself, was the ultimate, enduring form of power. Imagine the truly terrifying implications of such an agenda. What happens when the supreme gatekeeper of all recorded knowledge also wields the formidable, unforgiving censor's red brush? For every volume carefully copied, bound, and deemed worthy of inclusion, how many thousands more were condemned, deemed subversive, heterodox, or simply inconvenient? For every cherished thought preserved for eternity within these hallowed pages, how many other voices were quietly, ruthlessly, systematically erased from existence, their very memory expunged? The thousands of scribes, with their tired, aching hands, were not just impartial copyists, they were, whether they knew it or not, instruments in a vast, silent, and incredibly effective campaign of historical revisionism. They weren't just preserving, they were also actively, deliberately purging. The Siku Quanshu, then, becomes a profound paradox. It stands as an awe-inspiring, almost unbelievable testament to human intellectual achievement, to our enduring capacity for meticulous organization, and to the sheer tenacity of human labor. It is a monumental repository of an entire civilization's soul, its artistic triumphs, its philosophical depths. Yet simultaneously, it represents one of history's most ambitious, extensive, and ultimately successful acts of state-sponsored censorship and intellectual control. It is a library of both immense, illuminating light and equally profound, chilling shadow. So, the question returns to us now, more potent and unsettling than before: What is the true nature and value of knowledge when it is filtered, edited, and ultimately sanctioned through the singular, all-powerful will of an emperor? What voices were silenced? What unique perspectives obliterated? What inconvenient truths were systematically swept away beneath the monumental weight of these 36,000 volumes, each a potential tomb for forgotten wisdom? What does it truly mean for a civilization to have its story written, or rather, rewritten and carefully curated, by the very hand that claimed to be preserving it whole and untouched? And what urgent, profound lessons does such a grand, yet deeply flawed, enterprise hold for us today, in our own age saturated with an overwhelming torrent of information, but also plagued by competing narratives, contested truths, and the ever-present temptation to control the discourse? This, then, is the compelling, complex, and sometimes chilling story of a library at the end of the world, not its geographical end, but perhaps the very end of its innocence regarding the true, often painful, cost of knowledge in the relentless crucible of power. Hello everyone, and welcome to what I hope will be an incredibly illuminating journey into the heart of Imperial China's intellectual landscape. For many years, I've harbored a profound fascination, a sense of almost unbelievable awe for one particular project from the Qing dynasty. When I first learned about it, it felt less like a collection of books and more like a conscious effort to encapsulate the entire intellectual heritage of a civilization, a truly staggering ambition that leaves me breathless even today. I'm speaking, of course, about the Wenyuan Siku Quanshu, or as it's more commonly known, the complete library of the four treasuries. Imagine for a moment, it's the late 18th century. The vast, sprawling empire of China is at its zenith under the reign of the Qianlong Emperor. And this emperor conceives of a project of such colossal scale that it would involve thousands of scholars, calligraphers, copyists, and artisans working tirelessly for nearly 2 decades. Their mission: to systematically collect, collate, critique, and copy every significant piece of Chinese literature, history, philosophy, and poetry known to exist, compiling them into one gargantuan, meticulously organized collection. When I first encountered the sheer audacity of this endeavor, the attempt to distill millennia of thought, culture, and wisdom into physical volumes, it wasn't just impressive, it was profoundly moving. It wasn't merely a book project, it was an act of intellectual and cultural empire building, a definitive statement of imperial might and cultural confidence. The very name, Siku Quanshu, gives us a vital clue to its magnificent structure. 4 treasuries. These aren't just arbitrary categories, they represent a deeply considered, systematic framework for organizing all human knowledge as understood by the literati and the imperial court in 18th century China. First, we delve into the classics, or Jing. This section is the very foundation, the bedrock of Chinese civilization. Here you find the revered Confucian canon, works like the Analects of Confucius, the Book of Changes, the Book of Documents, the Book of Rites, and the Spring and Autumn Annals. These aren't just ancient texts, they are the enduring wisdom that shaped imperial governance, informed personal morality, dictated social etiquette, and provided the philosophical blueprint for Chinese society for over 2 millennia. To understand the Jing is to understand the soul of imperial China. Next, we move to the histories, or Shi. This treasury is an immense chronicle of China's past, a meticulous record of its emperors, its people, and its events. It encompasses the grand narratives of monumental works like Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, official dynastic histories stretching back thousands of years, detailed geographical treatises that mapped the empire, and biographical accounts that painted vivid pictures of countless figures. This was how China remembered itself, how it learned from its past, understood its present, and crucially, how it envisioned its future, constantly referencing historical precedent. Then comes the wonderfully diverse and often surprising category of the masters, or Zai. This section truly opens up the intellectual breadth of Chinese thought beyond the purely Confucian. Here you discover the profound insights of Taoist texts like the Lazi and Zhuangzi, the rigorous statecraft of legalist writings, the strategic brilliance of military treatises like Sun Tzu's The Art of War, alongside advancements in science, medicine, agriculture, astronomy, and even early encyclopedias and dictionaries. The Z section is a vibrant intellectual marketplace where diverse schools of thought clashed, complemented each other, and pushed the boundaries of practical knowledge and philosophical inquiry. It reveals a China far richer and more varied in its intellectual pursuits than often imagined. Finally, we arrive at the collections, or Jai. This is the treasury dedicated to pure literature, to the aesthetic and emotional expressions of the Chinese spirit. Here you find the sublime poetry of masters like Du Fu and Li Bai, the elegant prose and essays of countless scholars, intricate forms of drama, and the collected literary works of individual authors across different dynasties. The Jai is where the beauty of the Chinese language truly shines, offering personal reflections, imaginative narratives, and lyrical expressions that captured the spirit, anxieties, and joys of their respective eras. It's the art and heart of Chinese intellectual life. This entire project, the Siku Quanshu, is far more than just a historical catalog of ancient books. For me, it represents a unique opportunity to peer directly into the mind of its commissioner, the formidable Qianlong Emperor. He was a ruler deeply concerned with cultural preservation, political legitimacy, and the consolidation of his Manchu dynasty's authority over a vast Han Chinese population. Exploring this collection isn't about embarking on a dry academic lecture. It's an invitation to understand his worldview, his profound anxieties, and his sweeping aspirations for his empire and his lasting legacy. What knowledge did he deem absolutely essential for future generations? What kind of unified, harmonious cultural narrative was he meticulously constructing and preserving for posterity? Throughout this series, we won't merely be admiring the sheer, overwhelming volume of what was compiled. We will embark on a critical, fascinating journey together, sifting through the layers of this imperial library to uncover its true significance. We'll celebrate the incredible treasures that found their rightful place within its meticulously organized volumes. But, and this is perhaps even more crucial to our understanding, we will also critically examine what was deliberately left out. Every monumental undertaking like the Siku Quanshu involves choices, often political ones, and those choices, those deliberate omissions, suppressions, and even alterations can be as profoundly revealing as the inclusions themselves. Why were certain texts deemed subversive or politically inconvenient? What perspectives were considered dangerous or simply irrelevant to the imperial narrative? These pressing questions will guide our exploration, revealing not just the magnificent scope and depth of Chinese thought, but also the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, ways in which knowledge, culture, and history can be controlled, curated, and shaped by the powerful. So please, settle in. prepare to delve with me into an unparalleled repository of human wisdom, a truly monumental project that both celebrated and, perhaps inevitably, selectively curated an entire civilization's intellectual heritage. This is our journey into the emperor's mind, through the awe-inspiring pages of the Siku Quanshu. Welcome to the Imperial Library, where we unlock the grand narratives hidden within the Siku Quanshu, the Siku Quanshu, or the complete library in 4 branches of literature. This monumental work, unparalleled in scope and ambition, is more than just a collection of books. It is a meticulously crafted edifice of knowledge, a testament to an emperor's vision, and a vivid reflection of 18th century imperial China. Our journey begins with Chapter 1, The Dragon's Decree, a quest for order, where we delve into the intricate historical tapestry that gave rise to this colossal undertaking. To truly appreciate the Siku Quanshu, we must first understand the world it was born into, a world shaped by the extraordinary figure of the Qianlong Emperor and his profound desire to order the very universe of knowledge. Imagine China in the mid-18th century, a realm at the zenith of its power and influence, presided over by the great Qing dynasty. This was an empire of staggering proportions, encompassing vast territories stretching from the fertile plains of the south to the frosty steppes of the north, and from the deserts of the west to the bustling seaports of the east. The Qianlong Emperor, who reigned for a remarkable 60 years, from 1735 to 1796, was the 6th emperor of the Manchu-led Qing dynasty and arguably its most brilliant and successful ruler. He inherited an empire stabilized and expanded by his illustrious predecessors, the Kangxi and Yongzheng emperors, a period often referred to as the High Qing. This era was marked by relative peace, unprecedented prosperity, and a burgeoning population. Agriculture flourished, trade routes thrived, and the imperial coffers swelled. Yet, beneath this veneer of absolute power and prosperity, there simmered a complex undercurrent of cultural and political tension. The Qing, despite their long rule and deep assimilation into Chinese culture, were still, at their core, a foreign dynasty. Their Manchu heritage, distinct from the Han Chinese majority, was a fact that could never be entirely erased, even as they embraced Confucian philosophy and imperial traditions. For generations, the Manchu emperors worked tirelessly to legitimize their rule, portraying themselves not as conquerors, but as the true inheritors of the mandate of heaven, the cosmic justification for imperial authority. This meant demonstrating not only military might and effective governance, but also, crucially, profound cultural sophistication and guardianship of Chinese civilization. Intellectual life was vibrant, yet carefully monitored. Confucianism remained the bedrock of state ideology, shaping everything from civil service examinations to social customs. Scholars and literati held immense influence, their interpretations of classical texts capable of reinforcing or subtly challenging the imperial narrative. For an emperor, mastery and control over this intellectual sphere were paramount to maintaining stability and solidifying his celestial mandate. It was within this historical crucible that the Qianlong Emperor conceived of the Siku Quanshu, a project driven by a dual, yet interconnected, set of ambitions. His first goal was noble and deeply rooted in imperial tradition, the preservation of Chinese culture. Qianlong saw himself as the ultimate guardian of China's vast literary heritage, a legacy stretching back millennia. He understood the fragility of knowledge texts lost to fire, flood, war, or simply the ravages of time and neglect. Much like previous dynasties had sponsored encyclopedic compilations, Qianlong envisioned a definitive collection that would bring together the finest works from every corner of the empire, safeguarding them for posterity. He was himself a prolific poet and calligrapher, a connoisseur of art and literature, and genuinely concerned with the potential erosion of the immense cultural patrimony he had inherited. He believed that such a comprehensive collection would not only preserve knowledge, but also elevate it, making it more accessible and organized than ever before. But alongside this benevolent preservationist impulse lay a second, equally powerful, and perhaps more pragmatic objective: to solidify the legitimacy of his Manchu rule. By undertaking a project of such unparalleled cultural magnitude, Qianlong aimed to unequivocally demonstrate that the Qing dynasty was not merely a foreign conqueror, but the legitimate, indeed the most fitting, custodian of Chinese civilization. This was a grand statement of cultural assimilation, an assertion that the Manchu emperors were the true inheritors and protectors of the Chinese intellectual tradition. By becoming the ultimate patron of scholarship, the emperor positioned himself as the supreme arbiter of knowledge, the final authority on what constituted correct thought and valuable literature. This grand scholarly undertaking was also, less overtly, a powerful tool of ideological control. The process of compilation involved careful review and censorship. Texts deemed subversive, containing anti-Manchu sentiments, praising previous Han dynasties too enthusiastically, or critiquing the current regime, were identified, excised, and often destroyed. Even seemingly innocuous passages could be altered to align with the official imperial narrative. Thus, the Siku Quanshu became both a magnificent repository of knowledge and a colossal act of selective remembrance, a curated version of history and literature that reinforced the Qing dynasty's claims to power. The sheer logistics of realizing this audacious vision were nothing short of monumental. To assemble the Siku Quanshu, the imperial court launched what amounted to a nationwide intellectual dragnet. Qianlong issued a decree to every provincial governor, prefect, and magistrate across the vast empire, commanding them to scour their regions for every available book, manuscript, and ancient scroll. From personal libraries of wealthy landowners to dusty temple archives, from remote village schools to prestigious academies, no stone was left unturned. Officials were encouraged to compel submissions, with promises of imperial recognition for valuable fines and subtle warnings for non-compliance. These collected works, often numbering in the tens of thousands, were then painstakingly transported to the imperial capital, Beijing, a logistical feat in itself given the travel conditions of the era. Once in Beijing, these literary treasures faced a formidable intellectual army. The Siku Quanshu Bureau was established, a specially created department staffed by hundreds of the empire's most brilliant scholars, editors, calligraphers, and copyists. These luminaries, drawn from the Hanlin Academy and other prestigious institutions, dedicated years, even decades, of their lives to this singular project. Their task was immense: to catalog, collate, annotate, correct errors, and finally, to hand copy every single chosen text. Imagine the meticulous work involved, comparing multiple editions of a single text to establish the most authoritative version, identifying discrepancies, writing scholarly commentaries and summaries for each entry, and then the sheer physical labor of transcribing millions upon millions of characters onto delicate paper with brush and ink. The goal was to create not just one, but 7 magnificent, complete sets of the Siku Quanshu, each housed in a specially constructed imperial library across the empire, with the primary and most opulent copy residing in the Wenyuanj, the imperial library within the Forbidden City. This was an undertaking that consumed nearly 2 decades, requiring the sustained effort of thousands of individuals and an immeasurable investment of imperial resources. At its heart, the Siku Quanshu embodies a concept deeply ingrained in Chinese imperial ideology, the idea of ordering the world through knowledge. For millennia, Chinese philosophy held that the cosmos and human society were intrinsically linked, forming a unified hierarchical order. The emperor, as the son of heaven, was responsible for maintaining this harmony, not only through righteous governance and military strength, but also through the careful cultivation and regulation of knowledge. The act of compiling, categorizing, and standardizing knowledge was seen as a reflection of this cosmic order. The Siku Quanshu was meticulously arranged into 4 traditional branches or categories: Jing classics, Shi histories, Zi masters/philosophy, and Jai collections of belles lettres. This categorization was not arbitrary, it was a deeply symbolic act, an intellectual framework that mirrored the imperial bureaucracy and the perceived natural order of the universe. By imposing this definitive structure on the vast and often chaotic body of Chinese literature, the emperor was, in essence, performing a grand act of intellectual governance, creating a definitive, authoritative canon. He was demonstrating his ability to not only rule the physical realm, but also to shape and define the very intellectual landscape of his empire, ensuring that the collected wisdom of the ages would serve to reinforce, rather than undermine, the stability and legitimacy of his rule. The Siku Quanshu, therefore, stands as both an unparalleled repository of human thought and a powerful testament to the imperial conviction that knowledge, meticulously organized and judiciously controlled, was the ultimate tool for achieving and maintaining cosmic order. It was the dragon's decree, brought to life in ink and paper, a quest for an order that extended from the emperor's throne to the furthest reaches of the mind. In our first chapter, we journeyed into the majestic origins and unparalleled scope of the Siku Quanshu, the complete library in 4 branches of literature. Now we delve deeper, moving beyond its sheer scale to understand the intellectual architecture that defined this monumental undertaking. This structure, far from being a mere organizational system, represented the very cornerstones upon which Chinese civilization had built its worldview, its governance, its art, and its understanding of humanity itself. These were not simply categories, they were, in essence, the 4 pillars of wisdom, reflecting the profound belief that a well-ordered society, indeed, a well-ordered cosmos, depended on a comprehensive understanding and preservation of these distinct yet interconnected fields of knowledge. Let us begin with the first pillar, Jing, or the classics. This category served as the moral and philosophical DNA of Chinese civilization. Here, nestled within these venerable texts, lay the foundational wisdom that shaped governance, ethics, education, and individual conduct for millennia. Foremost among them, naturally, were the works of Confucius and his disciples, alongside other essential texts like the Book of Changes, the Book of Documents, and the Book of Rites. These weren't just ancient writings, they were considered the fundamental operating system for society. They provided the guiding principles for the emperor's rule, the scholar official's duties, the family's harmony, and the individual's pursuit of moral cultivation. To master the classics was to internalize the very essence of what it meant to be a cultivated person, a responsible citizen, and an effective leader. They offered an enduring framework for understanding human nature, social dynamics, and the pursuit of a harmonious order, both within oneself and within the wider world. Without these foundational texts, the Chinese worldview would be utterly unrecognizable, making their preservation not just important, but absolutely vital to the continuity of their civilization. Next, we turn our attention to the second pillar, or histories. If the classics provided the blueprint for how society should operate, the histories offered an unbroken chain of the past, illustrating how it had operated, for better or worse. This category was far more than a mere chronicle of events. It was seen as an indispensable mirror for the present, reflecting the triumphs and failures of previous dynasties, the wisdom and follies of past rulers, and the consequences of different policies. From the grand dynastic histories, such as Sima Qian's monumental records of the grand historian, to local gazetteers and biographical collections, the sheer volume of historical writing emphasized a profound cultural belief that the past was the ultimate teacher. By studying history, one could discern patterns, avoid past mistakes, and draw lessons to navigate contemporary challenges. It instilled a deep sense of continuity, grounding the present in the achievements and struggles of those who came before. For imperial China, understanding history was not an academic luxury, but a practical necessity, a guiding light for governance and a crucial element in maintaining the mandate of heaven. It taught that while circumstances change, human nature and the principles of governance often do not, providing a timeless reservoir of practical wisdom. Our journey continues to the third pillar, Zai, or the masters. This vibrant category was truly the marketplace of ideas, a rich intellectual landscape where diverse philosophies, strategies, and schools of thought competed, challenged, and complemented one another. It was here that one could find everything from the pragmatic military strategies of Sun Tzu's art of war to the mystical and nature-focused philosophies of Taoism, expounded by figures like Laozi and Zhuangzi. But the masters category encompassed much more: legalists advocating for strict laws, mohists promoting universal love, agriculturalists, logicians, medical texts, technical treatises, and even encyclopedias. This section represented the incredible intellectual dynamism of ancient and imperial China, a testament to its willingness to explore different ways of understanding the world and solving its problems. It was a space for critical inquiry, for practical application, and for the exploration of knowledge beyond the strictly Confucian orthodoxy. The masters provided alternative perspectives, practical tools, and intellectual stimuli that prevented stagnation, fostering a culture of continuous learning and debate. Their inclusion in the Siku Quanshu demonstrated an appreciation for intellectual breadth and the understanding that true wisdom emerges from the confluence of many voices. Finally, we arrive at the fourth pillar, Jai, or collections. If the classics provided the framework, histories the experience, and masters the diverse intellect, then collections offered the very soul of the culture. This category was the repository of pure literary expression, capturing the breadth and depth of the human experience through poetry, prose, drama, literary criticism, and personal writings. Here resided the lyrical verses of Tang dynasty poets like Lai Bai and Du Fu, the poignant essays of scholars, and the elegant literary critiques that shaped aesthetic sensibilities for generations. Collections allowed the individual voice to resonate, showcasing the beauty of language, the power of emotion, and the nuanced observations of human life, nature, and society. It wasn't about moral instruction or historical lessons in the direct sense, but about cultivating aesthetic appreciation, fostering emotional intelligence, and preserving the artistic achievements that define Chinese cultural identity. This pillar reminded society that civilization is not just about order and governance, but also about beauty, creativity, introspection, and the shared human yearning for expression. It provided the emotional resonance and cultural richness that made the entire edifice of knowledge vibrant and alive. Together, these four pillars, classics, histories, masters, and collections, formed the comprehensive framework of the Siku Quanshu. They were not merely a system for organizing books. They were a profound statement about what constituted the essential knowledge for a flourishing civilization. To the scholars and emperors who compiled this immense library, preserving these four categories was synonymous with preserving China's past, present, and future. Each pillar supported the others, creating a robust and resilient intellectual edifice that informed every aspect of life, from the imperial court to the humblest village school. By understanding these four branches, we begin to grasp the incredible ambition, foresight, and intellectual grandeur that underpinned the creation of the complete library in four branches of literature, a legacy that continues to resonate with us today. After marveling at the sheer scale and intellectual ambition of the Siku Quanshu, the Grand Imperial Library, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. 4 sections, 36,000 volumes, covering millennia of human thought, it can all seem abstract, a mountain of paper and ink. But within those pages aren't just dry facts or dusty doctrines, they are vibrant, pulsating voices echoing across centuries. They are stories, poems, philosophies, and insights that, once brought to life, become deeply relatable, profoundly human. In this chapter, we're going to dive into that ocean, not with a net to capture everything, but with a spotlight illuminating just a few precious pearls. We'll listen to the poets, learn from the strategists, and ponder the wisdom of the masters, proving that these ancient texts are not merely relics, but living reservoirs of enduring knowledge, offering guidance for our modern lives. Let's begin with the collections section, a treasury of literary masterpieces. Among its many giants, few shine as brightly as Labai, the immortal poet, whose verses often capture profound emotion with deceptive simplicity. Imagine yourself under a clear night sky, far from home, a feeling many of us know well. From the collections of the Siku Quanshu, we find his iconic poem, "Quiet night, thought before my bed, the moon is shining bright. I wonder if it's frost upon the ground. I raise my head and gaze at the bright moon. I lower my head and think of home." Isn't that exquisite? In just 20 Chinese characters, Labai evokes a universal human experience, the pang of nostalgia, the loneliness of separation, the deep yearning for home. He uses a simple, tangible image, the moonlight mistaken for frost, to ground a profound emotional truth. This poem, preserved within the Siku Quanshu, continues to resonate because it speaks to a fundamental human connection to place and memory. It reminds us that even across 12 centuries, our hearts beat with similar rhythms, our souls ache with similar longings. It's a testament to the power of art to transcend time and culture, allowing us to feel the very pulse of ancient China. Now, let's turn the page to the histories section, a vast chronicle not just of emperors and dynasties, but of individuals whose choices shaped the course of an empire. Within these annals, we find countless tales of courage, betrayal, cunning, and loyalty. One such story, celebrated across Chinese culture and meticulously documented in various historical texts within the Siku Quanshu, is the legendary empty fort strategy attributed to Zhuge Liang, the brilliant strategist of the Three Kingdoms period. During a critical campaign, Zhuge Liang found himself in a precarious position. Leading a small, vulnerable force, he received intelligence that a massive enemy army, commanded by the formidable Sima Yi, was rapidly approaching his undefended city. Panic spread among his officers. Retreat was impossible, resistance seemed suicidal. But Zhuge Liang, ever the master of psychological warfare, remained calm. He ordered the city gates to be flung wide open. He then dismissed all the soldiers from their posts, sending them into hiding. Instead of preparing for battle, he took 2 young attendants and ascended the city wall, where he calmly played his zither, a traditional stringed instrument, gazing out as if expecting honored guests. When Sima Yi's vanguard approached and saw the open gates, the deserted streets, and Zhuge Liang serenely playing music, they were baffled. They reported back to Sima Yi, who, knowing Zhuge Liang's reputation for cunning and brilliance, immediately suspected a trap. He reasoned that Zhuge Liang would never expose himself so recklessly unless he had a massive ambush hidden within the city walls, hoping to lure Sima Yi's army inside. Fearing a catastrophic defeat, Sima Yi, despite his officers' protests, ordered a full retreat. Zhuge Liang, with nothing but an open gate and a melody, had bluffed an entire army into retreat. This wasn't merely a trick. It was a profound understanding of human psychology, of reputation, and of the power of perceived weakness. It's a story that teaches us about the ingenuity of the human mind, the importance of unconventional thinking, and how perception can often be more potent than reality itself. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in direct confrontation, but in a masterful display of calculated vulnerability. From the grand narratives of history, we now shift our focus to the Masters section, a compilation of philosophical treatises that have shaped Chinese thought for millennia. Here, we encounter profound ideas that delve into the very nature of existence, ethics, and governance. Among them, few concepts are as elegantly simple yet deeply profound as the Taoist principle of Wu Wei. Translated literally as non-action or non-doing, Wu Wei is often misunderstood. It doesn't advocate for laziness or passivity, rather, it's about effortless action, alignment with the natural flow of the universe, and acting without resistance. Imagine water flowing down a mountain. It doesn't actively try to carve a path, it simply finds the path of least resistance, gracefully moving around obstacles, ultimately reaching its destination. That is Wu Wei. It's about acting in harmony with the situation, not against it. It's about recognizing when to push and when to yield, when to strive and when to simply allow things to unfold. In a world obsessed with constant striving, with doing more and hustle culture, the concept of Wu Wei offers a refreshing counterpoint. It suggests that often, the most effective way to achieve our goals is not through brute force or endless effort, but through a calm, intelligent responsiveness to circumstances. By letting go of rigid control and embracing a more fluid, adaptive approach, we can often achieve more with less struggle. It's about finding efficiency in spontaneity and power in patience. The Siku Quanshu preserves these ancient Taoist texts, offering this timeless wisdom to generations, inviting us to reconsider our relationship with effort and control. So, what do these voices from the Siku Quanshu tell us today? Lai Bai's quiet night thought reminds us of the enduring power of human emotion and the solace found in shared experience, whether across a dinner table or across a millennium. It encourages us to pause, to feel, and to connect with our inner landscape. Zhuge Liang's empty fort strategy isn't just a thrilling historical anecdote. It's a powerful lesson in strategic thinking, in understanding an opponent's psychology, and in the wisdom of calculated risk. It teaches us that resources are not always the defining factor. Sometimes, imagination and confidence can be our greatest assets in navigating complex modern challenges, from business negotiations to personal dilemmas. And Wu Wei, the Taoist concept, offers a vital antidote to the relentless demands of contemporary life. It doesn't tell us to stop acting, but to act smarter, to find joy in the process, and to trust in the natural unfolding of events. It invites us to differentiate between productive effort and futile struggle, to embrace adaptability, and to cultivate a sense of inner calm amidst external chaos. These are just 3 glimpses, 3 tiny windows into the monumental world contained within the Siku Quanshu. Yet, they demonstrate its profound and continuing relevance. This isn't just a collection of old books. It is a conversation spanning centuries, a library where the greatest minds of China speak directly to us, offering wisdom, comfort, and inspiration. The voices from these pages are not distant echoes. They are vibrant, pertinent, and ready to guide us, if only we take the time to listen. They remind us that the human condition, its joys and sorrows, its challenges and triumphs, remains remarkably constant, and that the insights gleaned from ancient minds can illuminate our path forward, even in the most modern of times. We've explored the monumental ambition of the Siku Quanshu, a project that sought to gather the intellectual heritage of a civilization within its vast pages. We've marveled at the sheer scale of its collection, the meticulous organization, and the grand vision of an emperor determined to solidify his cultural legacy. But to truly understand the Siku Quanshu, to grasp its full impact on Chinese intellectual history, we must now turn our gaze to its shadow, a darker, more chilling aspect that ran concurrently with its grand enterprise, the literary Inquisition. For all its noble pronouncements about preserving knowledge, the Siku Quanshu was also, undeniably, one of the most comprehensive and brutal campaigns of censorship and destruction in human history. It was a project with a dual nature, a Janus-faced endeavor. On one side, the enlightened collector, a patron of arts and letters. On the other, the ruthless censor, purging anything deemed a threat to imperial authority. This wasn't merely a byproduct. It was an integral, deliberate part of the strategy. The collection process itself was often a prelude to destruction, a sifting of the wheat from the chaff, where chaff was anything that challenged the king's legitimacy. Imperial officials, scholars, and local gentry were exhorted, even commanded, to submit all books in their possession to the capital. The stated purpose was inclusion in the grand anthology. But beneath this veneer of scholarly pursuit lay a menacing trap. Those who failed to submit potentially problematic texts, or worse, were found to be concealing them, faced severe punishment. This created an atmosphere of pervasive fear, forcing families to surrender centuries-old heirlooms, knowing full well that many would never return, or worse, would be incinerated. So, What exactly qualified a book for the pyre or for meticulous, often disfiguring revision? The criteria were broad, vague, and ultimately absolute. Foremost among the dangerous ideas was anything that could be construed as anti-Manchu sentiment. This was the Qing dynasty, after all, founded by a non-Han ethnic group, and any text that subtly or overtly questioned their right to rule, disparaged their customs, or hinted at their foreign origins was ruthlessly suppressed. This included historical accounts that were deemed unflattering to the Manchus or works that championed the previous Ming dynasty, particularly those expressing loyalty to the fallen Han regime. Pro-Ming sentiment, even in the form of innocuous historical commentary, became a capital offense. But the net of censorship was cast even wider. Works that subtly criticized imperial policies, even those from earlier dynasties, could be seen as seditious. Any text, regardless of its original intent, that contained language that could be interpreted as disrespectful to the emperor or that challenged the Confucian orthodoxy endorsed by the king was also targeted. The meticulous review process of the Siku Quanshu committee, staffed by thousands of scholars, became a massive engine of ideological purification. These scholars, under immense pressure, had to scan every preface, every commentary, every obscure historical anecdote for even the slightest hint of transgression. A wrong word, a misplaced phrase, an outdated calendar date, any of these could doom a text, and sometimes its author. The consequences for those caught in this dragnet were horrific. The literary inquisition was not just about burning books, it was about burning lives, lineages, and legacies. Families were ruined, scholars imprisoned, tortured, and executed for words they had written, or even for words written by their ancestors. It created a chilling effect where self-censorship became the default mode for intellectual discourse. Perhaps one of the most tragic and stark examples of this brutal reality is the case of Wang Zihu. Wang Zihu was a scholar from Anhui province, known for his lexicographical work. In 1777, he published a dictionary titled Zihi Bulai, or Supplement to the Dictionary of Characters. On the surface, an academic pursuit, a refinement of existing lexicographical works. But within its prefaces, Wang Zihu made several fatal errors. He continued to use the Ming dynasty's calendar system for dating, even though the king had been in power for over a century. More critically, he used the personal names of the Kangxi and Qianlong Emperor's names that were considered sacred and taboo to be uttered or written, especially without alteration, outside of official imperial decrees. This was an act of profound disrespect, an affront to the emperor's divine authority. The Zidui Bule came to the attention of officials, and the ensuing investigation was swift and devastating. Wang Zihu was accused of great disrespect and wickedness. The imperial decree that followed was unequivocal. Wang Zihu was condemned to death by slow slicing, a brutal form of execution. His sons and grandsons were also executed. His wife, daughters, and granddaughters were enslaved and banished to military garrisons in distant Xinjiang. His property was confiscated, and all existing copies of Zihui Bule were ordered to be burned, not just the printing blocks, but every single copy found. Other works by Wang Zihu were also destroyed. This wasn't merely about correcting an academic oversight, it was a public spectacle of terror, a brutal reminder to all scholars of the grave dangers of stepping outside the narrow confines of acceptable thought. The story of Wang Zihu and countless others whose names are now lost to history forces us to confront a profound and unsettling question: Who gets to decide which knowledge is worth saving and which is consigned to oblivion? In the case of the Siku Quanshu, it was the state, the emperor, and his loyal officials. They wielded the ultimate power to shape historical narrative, to define orthodoxy, and to literally erase inconvenient truths or dissenting voices. They curated not just what future generations would read, but also what they could not read, fundamentally altering the intellectual landscape. This centralized control over knowledge had deep and lasting repercussions. It stifled intellectual creativity, encouraging conformity over innovation. Scholars learned to navigate the treacherous waters of imperial decrees, often resorting to veiled criticisms or focusing on safer, less politically charged subjects. It meant that entire schools of thought, alternative interpretations of history, and critiques of power structures were systematically eliminated, leaving behind a sanitized, state-approved version of China's past. The Siku Quanshu, therefore, stands as a complex and contradictory monument. It is a testament to an unparalleled ambition to preserve culture, yet simultaneously, a stark reminder of the immense power of censorship and the fragility of intellectual freedom. The Shadow Library, the vast collection of works that were burned, revised, or simply never allowed to exist, is a poignant counterpoint to the four great treasuries. It serves as a haunting reminder of the voices silenced, the ideas extinguished, and the histories written, all at the behest of an empire determined to control not just the present, but also the narrative of its own past and future. It forces us, even centuries later, to consider the immense responsibility that comes with the power to curate, to publish, and crucially, to destroy. From the monumental labor of its compilation, we now turn our gaze to the enduring shadow and brilliant light cast by the Siku Quanshu across centuries. This colossal undertaking, born of imperial ambition and scholarly dedication, stands today as a profound paradox, a cultural treasure of unparalleled magnitude, yet also a controversial symbol of unchecked imperial power. Its legacy is etched deeply into the very fabric of Chinese intellectual history, shaping what we remember and perhaps what we have forgotten. Let us first consider the physical embodiments of this grand vision, the 7 original handwritten copies. Imagine, if you will, the sheer marvel of these sets, each meticulously copied by hand, each stretching to an inconceivable 36,000 volumes. These were not just books, they were monumental works of art and scholarship, a complete library in themselves. 3 of these precious sets were destined for the imperial palaces: the Wenyuan-ji copy in the Forbidden City in Beijing, the Wenjin-ji copy in the Imperial Library in Shenyang, and the Wenshu-ji copy in the Summer Retreat at Cheng. The remaining 4 were placed in specially constructed imperial libraries in key cultural centers of the Jiangnan region: the Wenhua-ji in Zhenjiang, the Wenlin-ji in Hangzhou, the Wenzhong-ji in Yangzhou, and the Wenying-ji in Jinan. These regional libraries were intended to allow local scholars and officials access to the empire's consolidated knowledge. However, the passage of time, marked by civil strife, war, and revolution, proved to be an unforgiving test of their permanence. The fate of these 7 copies dramatically illustrates the fragility of even the grandest human endeavors. The Wenyuan-ji copy, after a journey across the straits, now resides safely in the National Palace Museum in Taipei, Taiwan, a testament to its survival. The Wenjin-ji set, housed in Shenyang, largely endured the turbulent decades and is now preserved in the Liaoning Provincial Library. The Wenshu Ji copy in Cheng suffered significant losses and dispersal over time, though substantial portions are now held by the National Library of China in Beijing. Tragically, the 4 copies in the Jiangnan region bore the brunt of later conflicts. The Wenlin Ji set in Hangzhou, while heavily damaged during the Taiping Rebellion in the mid-19th century, was miraculously salvaged and meticulously restored through a painstaking process of recopying missing volumes from other sets. It is now proudly preserved in the Zhejiang Provincial Library. However, the other 3 Jiangnan sets, the Wenhua Ji in Zhenjiang, the Wenzong Ji in Yangzhou, and the Wenying Ji in Jinan, were almost entirely obliterated during the ravages of the Taiping Rebellion. Their destruction represents an immeasurable loss to human civilization, a stark reminder of how easily centuries of knowledge can be swept away by the tides of conflict. Today, only 3 complete, or near-complete, original copies survive alongside scattered remnants of others, a stark contrast to the original 7. Despite these tragic losses, the surviving portions of the Siku Quanshu remain an indispensable resource for modern scholars, forming a bedrock for the study of Chinese history, philosophy, literature, and science. Its sheer scope means that it often contains the most complete, or even the sole surviving, versions of ancient texts that would otherwise have been lost to time. For researchers delving into the intricate tapestry of Chinese thought, the Siku Quanshu offers an unparalleled window into the intellectual landscape of pre-modern China. It allows scholars to trace the evolution of ideas, compare different schools of thought, and understand the historical context in which these works were produced. It is a vital repository for textual criticism, providing critical editions that have served as benchmarks for subsequent scholarship. For a student of Chinese civilization, the Siku Quanshu is not merely a collection of books, it is a meticulously organized, albeit imperial-centric, universe of knowledge that continues to inform and shape academic discourse worldwide. Beyond its utility as a scholarly tool, the Siku Quanshu carries profound symbolic meaning in China and around the world. Within China, it stands as an enduring emblem of cultural pride, a testament to the nation's profound and continuous intellectual tradition and the unparalleled scholarly ambition of its imperial past. It represents a golden age of compilation and preservation, a monumental achievement in organizing the vast ocean of Chinese knowledge. Yet, this pride is often tempered by a quiet awareness of the darker undertones of its creation, the censorship and control that accompanied its compilation. Internationally, the Siku Quanshu is seen as a marvel of human endeavor, an extraordinary example of large-scale cultural preservation from a time when such feats were almost unimaginable. It serves as a potent reminder of China's immense contribution to global intellectual heritage, while simultaneously prompting reflection on the complex interplay between knowledge, power, and state control in all civilizations. It embodies both the glory and the inherent contradictions of imperial systems. Perhaps no other aspect of the Siku Quanshu's legacy is as contested or as far-reaching as its role in shaping the very canon of Chinese literature for centuries to come. The act of inclusion within this imperial library was in itself an act of canonization, elevating certain texts to a status of unquestioned importance and often relegating others to obscurity. For generations, scholars and officials would view the contents of the Siku Quanshu as the definitive body of Chinese knowledge, the authoritative selection of classical works. This powerful influence, however, came at a steep cost. The compilation was intertwined with a draconian literary inquisition, a systematic campaign of censorship and destruction aimed at purging texts deemed critical of Manchu rule or otherwise subversive. An estimated 13,000 volumes were destroyed outright, and countless others were meticulously edited, altered, or simply omitted from the collection. Anti-Manchu sentiments, works by scholars associated with past dynasties, or even certain philosophical treatises that deviated from orthodox Confucianism as defined by the Qing court, were ruthlessly suppressed. This extensive censorship profoundly impacted the intellectual landscape for centuries. It created an officially sanctioned version of Chinese history and literature, effectively silencing dissenting voices and shaping the intellectual discourse for generations. What the Siku Quanshu presented became the truth, the standard against which all other knowledge was measured. Even today, as scholars critically reevaluate the biases inherent in the collection, its influence remains undeniable. Many foundational studies and critical editions of Chinese classics still begin by engaging with the versions found in the Siku Quanshu, a testament to its enduring authority, even while acknowledging its ideological limitations. It is a monumental work whose shadow continues to fall across Chinese intellectual history, a testament to both the power of knowledge to enlighten and preserve, and the power of the state to control and reshape the narrative of the past. The Siku Quanshu, therefore, stands as one of humanity's most extraordinary cultural achievements, a treasure trove of ancient wisdom that continues to enrich scholarship and inspire awe. Yet it simultaneously serves as a potent, tangible reminder of the complex relationship between knowledge and power, a testament to both the glory and the inherent dangers of centralized authority defining a nation's intellectual heritage. Its legacy is a profound paradox, echoing through the halls of history as both a beacon of enlightenment and a silent testament to the chilling hand of imperial control. All right, we've explored the monumental achievement that is the Siku Quanshu, understanding its immense scope and profound significance. Now, let's turn our attention to you. How can this incredible repository of knowledge, this vast ocean of Chinese civilization, enrich your own life today? The Siku Quanshu might seem like an unreachable peak, an academic Everest. But I promise you, its valleys are rich with accessible wisdom waiting for your exploration. We've designed a practical, inspiring 7-day journey, a blueprint for you to engage with the enduring themes and profound insights contained within its pages, bringing them into your daily experience. This isn't about becoming a scholar overnight. It's about opening a window, taking a few small, deliberate steps, and discovering timeless wisdom that resonates deeply with your world. Days 1 and 2, laying foundations, exploring the classics and histories. For the first 2 days of our journey, we'll dip our toes into the foundational categories of the Siku Quanshu, the classics, or Jing, and the histories, or Shi. These are the bedrock upon which much of Chinese thought and society was built, offering both ethical guidance and narrative depth. Day 1, let's begin with the classics. The ultimate classic, of course, is the work of Confucius. You don't need to read the entire Analects, but I encourage you to seek out a reliable, translated excerpt, perhaps just a few pages from a reputable online source or library. Look for passages discussing topics like good governance, filial piety, the cultivation of personal virtue, or the ideal gentleman, the Junzi. As you read, don't just passively absorb the words, actively reflect. How do these ancient principles speak to modern ethical dilemmas or personal challenges? Can you see echoes of Confucian thought in contemporary discussions about leadership, community, or individual responsibility? Take a moment to jot down a quote that particularly resonates with you and ponder why it strikes a chord. This is about starting a personal conversation with antiquity, allowing its wisdom to spark your own contemplation. Day 2, we move from the philosophical underpinnings to the narrative tapestry of the histories. Chinese history is vast and vibrant, filled with dramatic empires, ingenious innovations, and complex human stories. For this day, I suggest watching a well-produced documentary on a specific Chinese dynasty. Whether it's the unifying Qin, the flourishing Tang, or the enduring Han, there are countless excellent options available on streaming platforms and educational channels. As you watch, pay attention not just to the dates and names, but to the societal structures, the rise and fall of power, the daily lives of the people, and the cultural achievements that defined the era. Consider what were the recurring patterns of leadership. How did culture and governance intertwine? What lessons can be drawn from the successes and failures of these ancient civilizations? These histories are not merely dusty records. They are a living dialogue about the human condition across millennia, offering perspectives on ambition, resilience, and the relentless march of time. Days 3 and 4 deepening insights, diving into the masters and collections. Having explored the foundational classics and histories, our next 2 days will take us into the rich intellectual and artistic currents of the masters or Zai and the collections or Jai. Here, we encounter diverse schools of thought and the sublime beauty of Chinese literature, broadening our understanding beyond the strictly historical. Day 3, let's delve into the masters, specifically exploring a concept from Taoism. While Confucius focused on societal order and human relationships, Taoism, primarily through the teachings of Laozi and Zhuangzi, offers a path of harmony with nature and the cosmos, emphasizing an intuitive way of living. Find a brief, accessible introduction to a core Taoist concept such as Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action, or doing by not doing, or Pu, the uncarved block, representing natural simplicity and authenticity. Read about it, watch a short explanation, and then, for a few moments, try to integrate this concept into your own daily observations. Can you find examples of Wu Wei in nature or in moments of spontaneous flow and ease in your own life? How might embracing the natural simplicity, like the Pu, shift your perspective on possessions, ambitions, or social pressures? Taoism encourages a different way of seeing, a profound connection to the underlying rhythm of existence that can bring a sense of calm and perspective. Day 4, from philosophy to poetry, we turn to the collections, specifically the breathtaking lyrical works of the Tang dynasty. The Tang period is often considered the golden age of Chinese poetry, producing masters like Li Bai and Du Fu, whose verses capture both grand landscapes and intimate human emotions. Seek out a translated poem, just one from this era. Many anthologies are readily available online. Read it aloud, savoring the imagery, the economy of words, and the profound emotions often conveyed through subtle descriptions of nature or everyday life. Pay attention to how the poet evokes a scene, a feeling, or a philosophical idea in just a few lines. What themes emerge? Does it speak of loneliness, friendship, the transient beauty of a landscape, or the passage of time. Allow yourself to be moved by the artistry and the universality of human experience captured in these ancient verses. It's a powerful reminder that truly great art transcends centuries and cultures, speaking to the heart of what it means to be human. Days 5 and 6, engaging with culture and personal reflection. As we near the end of our structured week, we shift our focus to more immersive cultural engagement and vital personal reflection, actively drawing connections between ancient wisdom and your contemporary life. Day 5, let's engage visually with Chinese culture by exploring Chinese landscape painting. This art form is not merely a depiction of scenery, it's a profound philosophical statement, embodying Taoist and Buddhist principles and expressing the artist's inner spirit and harmony with the universe. Spend some focused time browsing online galleries of Chinese landscape art, major museum websites like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the British Museum, or the National Palace Museum in Taiwan offer excellent collections. Observe the brushwork, the masterful use of empty space, and the often tiny human figures dwarfed by majestic mountains and flowing rivers. What feelings does the art evoke in you? Can you see the philosophy of man's harmonious, yet sometimes insignificant, place in nature reflected in these masterpieces? It's a meditation in visual form, inviting contemplation and a sense of awe that transcends mere aesthetic appreciation. Day 6. This day is about bridging the gap between ancient Chinese wisdom and your own personal journey, recognizing the universal nature of preserving and passing on knowledge. Reflect on a tradition, a story, a piece of wisdom, or even a specific saying from your own cultural heritage or family history. Just as the Siku Quanshu meticulously preserved the knowledge of a vast civilization, every culture, every family, holds its own reservoir of timeless teachings. What values were passed down to you? What stories shaped your understanding of the world? Is there a particular custom, a family ritual, or an ancestral saying that carries significant meaning for you? Take some time to write it down, to think about its origins, and to consider how it has influenced who you are today. This exercise underscores the universal human endeavor to preserve wisdom and connect generations, mirroring the grand ambition of the Siku Quanshu itself, showing that the pursuit of understanding is deeply personal too. Day 7, sharing your discoveries. You've embarked on a fascinating journey, exploring ancient texts, rich histories, profound philosophies, and exquisite art. You've engaged with a monumental cultural legacy and reflected on its connections to your own life. Now for the final day, it's time to solidify your learning and, perhaps, inspire someone else. Day 7, your task is simple yet profound. Share what you've learned. Tell just one person about the Siku Quanshu, or recount a specific piece of wisdom, a historical anecdote, a Taoist concept, a line of poetry, or an insight from a landscape painting that resonated with you this week. It could be a friend, a family member, a colleague, anyone who will listen. The act of articulating your discoveries not only reinforces your own understanding, helping to cement the knowledge you've gained, but also opens a dialogue and potentially sparks curiosity in others. You might be surprised at how much you've absorbed and how easily you can communicate it, even after just a short exploration. This sharing isn't about lecturing, it's about sharing a glimpse into the vastness of human knowledge and the beauty you've found in its exploration, connecting you to the very lineage of knowledge transmission that the Siku Quanshu represents. This 7-day journey is merely an invitation, a starting point. The Siku Quanshu is an enduring testament to the human spirit's quest for knowledge and understanding, a beacon of civilization that reminds us of the power of documentation and reflection. By taking these small, deliberate steps, you've connected with a legacy that spans millennia and cultures, proving that timeless wisdom is not just for scholars, but for everyone willing to explore. May your journey into the vast and fascinating world of Chinese wisdom continue long beyond these 7 days, enriching your mind and spirit in countless ways. As we draw our journey through the monumental pages and complex legacy of the Siku Quanshu to a close, it's worth distilling its immense significance into a few enduring truths. These aren't just historical footnotes. They are profound insights that echo across centuries, offering us a clearer lens through which to view knowledge itself. I call them 3 truths from the Emperor's library. Our first truth reveals knowledge as an act of profound preservation. The Siku Quanshu stands as one of humanity's most ambitious and extraordinary endeavors to safeguard the intellectual heritage of a civilization. Imagine the scale, literally tens of thousands of books, millions of pages, copied by hand, catalogued, and bound into a coherent whole. This wasn't merely about collecting ancient texts. It was an act of cultural emergency, a desperate attempt to rescue millennia of scholarship, philosophy, history, and art from the ravages of time, war, and neglect. Dynasties rose and fell, cities burned, and countless manuscripts vanished forever. Yet, through this unprecedented imperial initiative, an immense portion of China's literary past was granted a reprieve, its voice preserved for future generations. It's easy to overlook the sheer human effort involved, the scholars who toiled, the scribes whose hands ached from endless copying, the librarians who meticulously organized this intellectual universe. This project, born of a deep reverence for tradition and a palpable fear of cultural amnesia, demonstrates an innate human drive to ensure that what has been thought, learned, and created endures. It reminds us that knowledge isn't just acquired, it must be actively, painstakingly preserved, often against formidable odds, if it is to serve as a bridge from the past to the future. Without such efforts, vast chapters of human experience would be utterly lost, rendering us poorer and less capable of understanding our own journey. The Siku Quanshu is a testament to this truth, a magnificent beacon in the often turbulent history of human endeavor, whispering across the ages, remember this, hold on to this. It matters. It is a profound monument to the idea that a civilization defines itself not just by what it builds, but by what it chooses to save. Our second truth, however, introduces a crucial counterpoint. Knowledge is also an act of immense power. The very collection and curation of the Siku Quanshu, while outwardly noble in its aim of preservation, was simultaneously an exercise in political control on an unparalleled scale. Emperor Qianlong, the driving force behind this colossal undertaking, understood that he wasn't just building a library, he was building an intellectual empire. By commissioning the Siku Quanshu, the Qing court asserted its cultural legitimacy over the vast Han Chinese population it now ruled. It was a declaration: we, the Manchu emperors, are the true custodians and protectors of your venerable heritage. But this custodianship came with a heavy price. The project systematically identified, reviewed, and, in many cases, outright destroyed texts deemed seditious, anti-Manchu, or otherwise politically undesirable. Entire passages were excised, entire books burned, their ideas purged from the official record. This was censorship on an industrial scale, meticulously executed under the guise of intellectual order. The Siku Quanshu thus became a curated universe, reflecting the dynasty's approved orthodoxy, shaping what was remembered and, perhaps more significantly, what was forgotten. It is a stark reminder that knowledge is rarely neutral. Its acquisition, its organization, its accessibility, and its suppression are all deeply intertwined with political agendas, establishing narratives and asserting dominance. From ancient libraries to modern digital archives, the power to decide what knowledge is collected, how it is presented, and who has access to it remains one of the most potent forms of control in human history. The Emperor's library, therefore, serves as a powerful cautionary tale, illustrating how the pursuit of knowledge can be both an enlightenment and an instrument of ideological suppression. Finally, our third truth reveals knowledge as a profound mirror. The Siku Quanshu, in its monumental scope and its deliberate omissions, reflects the values, the triumphs, and perhaps most poignantly, the anxieties of its time. It is a sprawling self-portrait of 18th century imperial China, painted with the brushstrokes of 1,000,000 characters. What did the Qianlong Emperor and his scholars choose to include? What did they deem worthy of preservation? What did they consciously exclude or alter? The answers to these questions reveal the intellectual priorities, aesthetic tastes, political concerns, and the very worldview of the Qing dynasty. We see their profound reverence for classical Confucianism, their sophisticated understanding of history and statecraft, their artistic sensibilities, and their scientific curiosity. But we also glimpse their insecurities, the fear of dissent, the need to legitimize Manchu rule, the desire to consolidate a particular vision of Chinese identity. The very act of creating such a comprehensive library, at such immense cost and effort, speaks volumes about their confidence in their own cultural zenith, even as the seeds of future challenges were perhaps unknowingly sown. By studying the Siku Quanshu, we are not just reading ancient texts, we are peering into the collective mind of an empire at a pivotal moment in its history. And in doing so, it holds up a mirror to us today. It prompts us to ask, what do our own libraries, our digital archives, our chosen narratives reflect about our values? What knowledge do we prioritize, and what do we allow to fade? What triumphs and anxieties define our contemporary world, and how are they reflected in the information we create, preserve, and consume? The Siku Quanshu is more than a historical artifact. It is an enduring invitation to self-reflection, urging us to understand how our collective knowledge shapes who we are, where we've come from, and where we might be headed. These three truths, knowledge as preservation, as power, and as a mirror, are the enduring lessons whispered from the Emperor's library, relevant now more than ever. As our deep dive into the extraordinary Wen Yuanji Siku Quanshu draws to a close, we've journeyed through more than just the physical confines of a magnificent collection of books. We've traversed the intellectual landscape of an empire, glimpsed the formidable ambition of its scholars, and pondered the very essence of cultural preservation. The Siku Quanshu stands not merely as a monumental compilation of texts, a physical representation of an era's scholarly output, but as a profound philosophical statement. It embodies humanity's enduring quest to organize, to comprehend, and ultimately, to safeguard the vast, intricate tapestry of knowledge woven across centuries. It serves as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between creation and preservation, between the transient nature of human life and the potentially immortal legacy of the written word. This imperial project, born from a desire to both centralize and protect, offers us a unique lens through which to view our own relationship with history, with the accumulated wisdom of our ancestors, and with our collective responsibility towards the intellectual heritage we stand to inherit and to pass on. Its very existence provokes contemplation on the cycles of knowledge, loss, and rediscovery, and the immense, often unseen, efforts required to ensure that the intellectual flame continues to burn brightly across generations. It's an adventure that transcends mere facts and figures, inviting us to reflect on the very spirit of human endeavor. If this extensive exploration into the heart of ancient Chinese scholarship resonated with you, if it ignited new facets of your curiosity, offered fresh perspectives on the colossal scale of cultural preservation, or simply unveiled a fascinating new chapter in the grand narrative of human intellect, then I sincerely ask you to acknowledge that by taking a moment to like this video. Your engagement in this simple act of appreciation is far more impactful than you might imagine. It helps elevate our content within the vast digital landscape, allowing these profound historical narratives and cultural insights to reach a broader audience of fellow history enthusiasts, aspiring scholars, and cultural explorers. Furthermore, if you find yourself captivated by these deep dives into the rich tapestry of global cultural history, if you yearn to uncover more forgotten texts, marvel at monumental human projects, and understand the minds that have profoundly shaped our world, then I extend a warm and enthusiastic invitation to subscribe to our channel. By joining our growing community, you ensure that you will remain connected, receiving immediate notifications for our upcoming intellectual adventures, our next meticulously researched examinations of humanity's most compelling stories and greatest achievements. Your subscription is not just a click, it's an affirmation of shared curiosity and a commitment to continuing this collective journey of discovery. The sheer ambition of the Siku Quanshu, an endeavor to encapsulate and preserve the sum total of a civilization's knowledge, provides us with a profound historical precedent. It compels us to consider a truly thought-provoking, perhaps even existential, question for our contemporary world. In this age of unprecedented digital information, yet also one characterized by rapid technological flux, evolving societal values, and potential vulnerabilities, let us engage in a compelling hypothetical exercise. If you were faced with the monumental task of selecting just one book, a single physical volume, chosen above all digital archives or vast libraries, to serve as the definitive representation of our current civilization for future generations, perhaps even for an unforeseen intelligent species observing Earth, what specific book would you choose? And just as importantly, why would that particular volume be your ultimate selection? Would it be a groundbreaking scientific treatise that encapsulates our most advanced understanding of the cosmos or the intricacies of life? Could it be a timeless philosophical work that grapples with the core dilemmas and aspirations of the human spirit? Perhaps a seminal novel that profoundly mirrors the complexities of our contemporary human condition, capturing our anxieties, joys, and contradictions? Or would it be a meticulously crafted historical account of our recent journey, a practical manual for rebuilding, or even a collection of our most cherished artistic expressions? I eagerly anticipate delving into your insightful and diverse responses in the comments section below. Let us collectively participate in this deep intellectual exercise, pondering what truly defines us in this moment and what single artifact we would entrust with carrying our most vital legacy forward into an unknown future. If the colossal ambition and the intricate dedication embodied by the Siku Quanshu has stirred your imagination, leaving you with a profound sense of awe for humanity's intellectual drive, then you are almost certainly inclined to appreciate other similar narratives of grand scholarly undertakings and the relentless pursuit of knowledge on an epic, civilizational scale. On our channel, we pride ourselves on delving into exactly these kinds of stories. From the poignant tragedy and enduring, almost mythical, legend of the Library of Alexandria, a radiant beacon of ancient learning whose ultimate fate serves as a stark, timeless reminder of knowledge's inherent fragility and the stakes involved in its preservation, to a myriad of other monumental cultural projects scattered across diverse civilizations and epochs. We meticulously explore the intricate efforts of ancient astronomers to meticulously catalog the stars, the painstaking construction of vast governmental archives designed to safeguard state secrets and historical records, the creation of other colossal encyclopedias in various cultures that sought to codify their entire worldviews, and the establishment of enduring institutions solely dedicated to the arduous and continuous task of preserving humanity's rich and multifaceted heritage. I would particularly recommend exploring our video on the grand libraries of antiquity, beacons of human knowledge. You will find a convenient link to this suggested video, or indeed a curated playlist of related content readily available in the description section directly below this video, and it will often appear as an interactive suggestion on your end screen. These complementary explorations offer a multitude of different perspectives on humanity's unwavering, almost instinctual, drive to collect, to meticulously organize, to synthesize, and ultimately, to reverently transmit its accumulated wisdom and creative genius across the vast ocean of time, echoing the very spirit that so powerfully animated the dedicated scholars and scribes of the Wen Yuan Ji Siku Quanshu. And so, our profound journey through the annals of intellectual history, traversing centuries and continents, to appreciate the unparalleled magnitude and enduring legacy of the Wen Yuan Ji Siku Quanshu, momentarily concludes. It is, without exaggeration, a distinct honor and a profound privilege to be able to share these immensely rich historical narratives and the deep cultural insights they offer with such an engaged, thoughtful, and genuinely curious audience as yourselves. Your dedicated presence, your thoughtful comments, and your active participation in this shared intellectual adventure are what truly make these explorations meaningful and infinitely more rewarding. Until our very next deep dive, our subsequent exploration into the astonishing realms of human ingenuity, scholarly endeavor, and the boundless pursuit of knowledge, I urge you to continue nurturing that invaluable spark of curiosity within you. Keep questioning the world around you, keep striving for deeper understanding, keep learning from the past, and above all, keep appreciating the incredible, intricate, and often under-recognized legacy of our shared global heritage. Farewell for now, dear listeners, and may your own intellectual curiosity forever serve as your guiding star, leading you to an unending tapestry of wondrous discoveries and profound insights.